Alright, this is lesson 4, graphing relations. I should say shuns. Put an S at the end of that, please. Oh. We're going to continue on in looking at graphs, and graphs could represent all sorts of things. We had lines, we had quadratics, and we use graphs a lot in real life to represent data and to represent an idea, and we represent two ideas together. For example, in the newspaper you might see like, oh, the number of people getting arrested in San Dimas is going down, and so they'll show a graph of it going down, or they might show the price of houses in San Dimas are going up since 10 years ago. It's really important to understand how graphs work so that you can know how to decipher the information when you look at a graph. Okay, so here we go. We'll be looking at graphs, and our objective will be to describe a relationship when given a graph, and to create a graph based upon a given description. Okay, so number 1, identify the labels of the x and y axes. These are up on your board. Raise your hand if you didn't write these down yet. Okay. Okay, so I'll give you a moment to catch up. Okay. Okay, so when we look at graphs, we need to look at the x and the y axis because those are really important in what it's talking about. You want to be able to look at the graph, and then you also want to make a relationship between them. Second thing is identify where the graph goes up and down or stays the same. There's intervals on the graph, and then you make inferences based on the graph, meaning you make like a prediction, or you make like you analyze the graph and you say, oh, that's probably what's happening here. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example here. First example is, let's say that I was giving you an idea of what my day looks like. So as the time of the day passes, the distance I am from home changes, okay? So from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, this is really what happens. I wake up and a little time passes because I'm still at home, and then I start going away from work, or going away from home. And then there's a time that I am at one place, the distance stays the same, and then the distance goes up again, and then it goes the same for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it goes all the way back down. And then at the end there is when I go to bed, okay? So what's really happening here? Okay. Well, the distance from home is going higher, right? What's happening? Well, let me tell you what's happening. I'm probably going to where when I'm going to school, right? I'm going to work, right? And then what's happening when it's flat? I'm at school for a while. Is the distance changing from home? No, because I'm here at school for a long time. And then let's just say I had to go to do an activity. Let's say I had to go to go get food. Let's say I really wanted to go get food at, I don't know. Okay, let's pick someplace good. In-N-Out, thank you. Okay. McDonald's. Okay, so I go to McDonald's. I go to In-N-Out, it's farther away, and then I'm there for a little bit. I scarf my burger down. Then what happens after I scarf my burger down? What am I doing? I start going home, okay? So, basically there are intervals of things that are happening on this graph, okay? So, the first thing I'm noticing is that I could divide my day accordingly, right? Well, that's kind of a crooked one. Let's do this one more time. Mitchell, can you please end your conversation?
Yeah.
Okay. So there are intervals of what's happening in my day. This is interval 1, so I'm going to call this interval 1, interval 2, interval 3, interval 4, and interval 5. Okay, so I want to define what's happening on each of my intervals. So on the first interval, what's happening in interval 1? What's happening in interval 1, everyone? What do we say we described it as? Going to school or going to work, right? Okay. Interval 2, what's happening in interval 2?
Staying at work.
Staying at work, right? I'm working. So I'm staying at work. Excellent. Okay, interval 3, what's going on?
In and out.
Is that really what's happening in interval 3?
Driving
to your friend's house.
Drive, well, we say in and out. Unless my friend...
That's a long time though, because work, I feel like 5 hours, and then interval 4 is pretty big.
That's true.
It's like an hour right there. So at your
Well,
friend's
let's say, yeah, that could be a better one. Let's say I go someplace really far, right? I go someplace super far. Let's say I go to the in and out on the other side of town. We'll make it work, okay? So a drive, that's a really good point. Drive really far to in and out, okay? You both win. Okay, what else is happening at the end? Interval 4.
You're eating.
I am eating. And then interval 5.
home.
What about home?
Driving.
Driving home.
Driving home. Did someone just say fast?
Yeah.
How do you know I'm driving fast?
It was just going like straight down.
So steep.
Because it's so steep. Good. Did you all get that? Am I going pretty fast to work here?
No.
Let's just say this is normal. Just say normal. Freeway. And then I'm driving. What about to really far to in and out? Am I driving faster or slower than when I started going? Slower, right? This is probably steeper than this. And then after in and out, what am I doing? I'm booking it home, right?
Late.
That's a good point. I like that. Whoever said faster, that's great. Okay? So anyways, this is an example of the graph. You can make a lot of inferences based upon it. You could make inferences of like, oh, what's happening? He's going to work. He's eating. He's at work. Okay? So you should be able to look at a graph and do that. So I divided my intervals up, and this is what it looks like. I'm only going to do one example here. So let's have 1 similitude, what I just did, on number 1, and then I'd like you to write this down. Ready, set, go. Let's do one more example here, okay? Let's say that this is the, I did this example last year, so I'm going to do it again this year. Because like this example. Okay, so I have a dog. I love my dog. I got a puppy about 1.5 years ago, and now she's like almost a full adult.
What is she?
She's a yellow lab. You want to see a picture of her?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find one. So this is my dog. We went camping, and it's right there, you see? I'll turn up the light a little bit. Put a hat on her. She's a cutie. Okay, so she was a little puppy once upon a time. So, and when she was born, when she was conceived, she was just a single cell. But now she's, when she was born, she was a certain weight. She had a very small weight. And for the first few weeks, it increased very slowly. And then she started to really grow for a few months. Right? That's really what happens. And then she started to slow down. And now, maybe it's going up slowly. So, with her, I'm noticing there are a few intervals here. So we got this first interval, interval 1, interval 2, interval 3, and interval 4, okay? Right now she's 65 pounds. When we got her, I think she was maybe 5 pounds. She was real small. Okay? So, and we're already past interval 4 with her. She's kind of already placked up. Okay? So, what's happening in interval 1? Turn to your neighbor, describe what's happening to interval 1. Okay, what's happening in interval 1?
She's a baby.
Well, we'll just start from the day she's born. So interval 1, what's happening? She's a baby and what? Barely growing, right? She's growing, but she's barely growing. Alright, she's still developing. Okay, interval 2, what's happening in interval 2? Yeah, she's gaining weight quick, right? Growing up. Fast or slow?
Slow, fast.
Right? And then what happens after in interval 3?
She kind of slows down.
Slows her. She's still growing, but she's slowing down, right?
She's not growing as fast.
Growth slows down.
And then the other one's kind of just like growing very slowly.
Yeah, the last one she's growing very slowly. Okay, so sometimes you might see a pamphlet or you might make something to represent something. Is it easier to write a paragraph that describes what's happening, or is it easier to draw a picture like a graph? What do you think is easier for? Okay, to communicate to other people. Okay, let's say you were like going to tell your friend, you're like, hey, you should get a dog, and they're like, well, how bad is it to have a dog? Are you gonna tell them about it? Like write an email to them about it, or would it be easier to draw a picture for them?
It's easier to just tell them.
But depends what they do.
Like
If
draw
you're
a picture.
Okay. It sometimes it's easier to write a paragraph. Sometimes it's easier to draw a picture. It really depends on the person. Okay, because sometimes people don't get what you're saying, but sometimes it's easier to just show a picture. Okay, so if you might create a pamphlet like how owning a dog. Okay, what you could expect. This is the weight you could expect. Okay. All right. So that concludes the lesson. This is well,